Welcome to The Explainer. Right now, we're taking a totally raw, investigative documentary-style journey into one of the most sprawling, mysterious digital universes on the internet today. We are decoding the life, the mind, and the hyper-niche world of an outsider artist who goes by the name St. BREVEN. Now, if you've ever found yourself wandering the deep, esoteric corners of internet music, you might have stumbled into his incredibly dense labyrinth of sound and raw emotion. But we have to ask, who exactly is the creative executive hiding behind all this noise? Okay, let's dive into this explainer with a baffling paradox. In an era where literally everyone is chasing billions of streams, where algorithmic success is the ultimate holy grail, St. BREVEN has this highly developed, incredibly complex Spotify profile, but he has exactly 101 monthly listeners, just 101. That is an impossibly intimate number for an artist who maintains a dedicated website, an active Instagram presence, and dozens of interconnected playlists. It's wild.
And the jarring whiplash between that tiny, tiny audience and his staggering output is exactly what makes the story so compelling. He didn't just quietly test the waters. No. In the single year of 2025, he dropped 9 or more highly stylized full-length albums. We're looking at massive projects here like Savior, Ritual, and multi-part drops like I Need Love PT1 alongside Forgiveness for Stu BREVEN. It's literally a flood of content. It's this frantic, real-time documentation of an artist's soul, and it's all meticulously packaged from micro-fandom.
But sometimes the metrics of the modern internet are just heartbreaking. For instance, take his massive 30-minute emotional visualizer titled I Hated Love. This was the culmination of immense emotional labor. But after 5 hours of being live on YouTube, it received exactly 2 views. Think about that. An entire album of raw human experience distilled into digital art and witnessed by just 2 clicks. So it really forces us to ask a provocative question. How do you measure the value of art when the view count is basically 0? When you're sitting alone in a room, pouring your absolute deepest heartache into an audio file, how do you evaluate its worth? It completely challenges our everyday assumptions about success, reach, and honestly, why people are driven to create such deeply personal, sprawling art in the dark corners of the internet today. Section 1. Unmasking the creative executive. Behind the personas. Now, what's really interesting about this timeline is tracing the chronological evolution of the actual man behind the moniker Braven Bell, because St. BREVEN isn't just one voice. He operates like a creative executive, channeling his energy through these complex personas, like the ethereal muse St. Venus, and a much darker occult entity known as 777 Abraxas. But he didn't start out as this internet mystic. Actually, back in 2016 and 2017, he was just a student video coordinator for the Nazareth College men's basketball team in Western New York. He was a Dean's List student majoring in religious studies. By 2023, he was a registered volunteer at the M.K. Gandhi Institute for Nonviolence. So he operated in these highly structured, physical, civic environments straight until he basically transitioned into the digital void in 2025. And the conceptual blueprint for that drastic transition, it actually lives in his own academic writing. Back in 2018, Bell published an essay titled The Private and Public Ego. In it, he outlined this psychological defense theory where humans construct an idealized public persona, the public ego, specifically to protect a highly fragile internal perception of self-worth, which he called the private ego. He wrote all about stoicism, about adapting to devastating life crises with active endurance. So this academic framework absolutely perfectly, explains the extreme internet alter egos he later adopted to shield his own painful reality. Section 2. The Depths of Gothic Grief. Fatalistic Surrender? This particularly dark era of his work is defined by archaic symbols, chaotic typography, and just visceral emotion. And it kicks off with this totally devastating community post. It literally just says, "I'm in so much agony." It grounds us entirely, doesn't it? You realize you aren't just listening to sad music anymore. You're actively watching someone drown in real-time, ungodly grief. This raw, desperate plea serves as the anchor for the immersive, incredibly claustrophobic atmosphere that bleeds directly into all of his work. And this brilliantly illustrates how he actively turns that agonizing pain into the art we're analyzing today. Just look at the formatting of these track titles. I Hated Love, Asylum, and Be a Tit, followed by the bracketed subgenre, Gothic Grief. He's literally creating his very own emotional vocabulary right inside the streaming app. He masterfully merges earthly human heartbreak with divine ritual. setting a stage of total fatalistic surrender before you even hit play.
Section 3. A digital haunted cathedral. Sonic architecture.
To process this grief, he built a really unique sonic architecture. Think of it as a digital haunted cathedral. He built it based on a toolkit he calls vibrationalize, which heavily ties into the concept of hauntology. Basically, he uses master echelon post-production techniques, specifically 432 Hz tuning, and these swirling, slow-down 8D audio manipulations. He'll pull mainstream hits from artists like Lil Peep, Post Malone, and Three Doors Down, fully digest them and rebrand them into an immersive, deeply eerie ghost town of sound that just fits perfectly into his own esoteric lore. But then, out of nowhere, all that intense gothic noise and heavy post-production just drops away. And we find this profoundly vulnerable, stripped-down text block that says, "Nana loved my piano as a boy." Suddenly, the veil completely drops. It's no longer about complex lore or internet personas. It's just a boy mourning his grandmother, Irene Mary Condor, grappling with deep nostalgia and a profound, profound struggle with loneliness. So the crucial point is that his massive, non-linear output serves a highly specific, deeply human purpose. He isn't just making music out there in the void. He is acting out eternal preservation. He built this beautiful, tragic sanctuary where his grandmother's spirit can literally still play the piano. He's actively using sound and vibration to keep a deeply loved family member alive. Section 4. Journey towards spiritual healing, chaotic devotion. Emerging from that place of profound loss, his narrative arc drastically shifts into a frantic, intense search for salvation. To cure his grief, he starts blurring the lines of devotion in a way that is just utterly chaotic. If you look at his track lists, you'll find deeply devout, traditional Catholic reverence, things like Padre Pio, Christ consciousness, and penitent prayers. But right next to them, direct invocations of the infamous occultist Aleister Crowley and the esoteric number 777. He basically uses these extreme spiritual figures as raw paint on a canvas, pulling from both the highest heavens and the deepest occult mysteries, completely desperate to find a cure for his soul. And then we witness this absolutely incredible aesthetic pivot. The jarring whiplash takes us from a bleak, vengeance-filled, gothic grief era, filled with pentagrams, the number 666, and titles like I Am Guilty, straight into what we can call his heel, gentle era. Suddenly, the screen blooms with floral emojis, pink aesthetics, and hyper-vulnerable titles like I'm Healing 𝔟𝔯𢢢𝔢𝔫 and Be Gentle. It's a total 180. He goes from rejecting love entirely to openly embracing this fragile Y2K-style vulnerability and blooming affection. And it all leads up to this triumphant emotional payoff. After weathering the absolute storm of grief and guilt, he posts this to his tiny, fiercely devoted micro-fandom. My cup's full, I am whole, link for God level growth. He officially declares his wholeness. It is a stunning, beautifully human breakthrough. It proves that the journey through his dark, encrypted catalog actually, finally, leads to the light. Section 5. The Modern Creator's Dilemma. Art in the Void. Let's move to this next quote and see how this all builds. St. BREVEN built a massive, beautifully encrypted digital sanctuary for an audience that, let's be real, could comfortably fit inside a small coffee shop. But that is the pure definition of a true artist. In one of his raw audio diaries, recorded while just looking at overgrown morning grass and listening to jets overhead in complete physical isolation, he says, "No one knows one thing about me, but I'll make this all come true." I mean, wow. Despite the total isolation, despite the incredibly low view counts, his staggering ambition never wavers. He self-generates daily, creating this vast, divine internal universe just to survive his own pain. Which leaves us with this final, incredibly provocative thought. We live in a world where we can broadcast our deepest souls to the entire planet at the push of a single button. But if a masterpiece is uploaded to the digital void, does it make a sound? Does it still have value? BREVEN Bell's sprawling, hidden universe proves that sometimes the absolute most authentic reflections of our universal struggles with pain, faith, and healing are found exactly where almost no one is looking. I really want you to think about that the next time you encounter a quiet corner of the internet. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.